This video, we're going to be covering arrays, but I just want to mention that this is going to be one of 3 videos in which we will be covering collection types. So basically, collections are mutable, so you can change them, you can add to them, subtract from them, delete them entirely, whatnot. So basically, they are used to store values. Okay, so an array basically stores values of the same type, so a type integer or a type string, in an ordered list. So in this video, I'll be covering the basics, how to create an array, how to create one with literals, accessing and modifying, as well as iterating over an array. Okay, so how do we create an array? So an array is basically like any other variable. We start with a var. We give it a name, and then we do the colons, but then we define what it is. In this case, it's an array that holds integers. And again, I want to make it clear that you can only create arrays with var, so they have to be variable. They cannot be constant. If they're constant, they do not work. All right? Because a constant is immutable or non-changeable. You cannot change them at all. And with arrays and with collection types in general, you need to be able to add to them. You need to be able to modify the lists in order to work with them. If you have a list that you can't modify, it's useless, right? Okay, so again, the longhand, we actually say an array, and then we use these little less than greater than signs, and then insert the type. In this case, this array of integers is of type int. The shorthand, we don't type an array, we just use the square brackets, and then inside we actually put in the type. So this is an array that has an array of strings. Okay, so creating an empty array. So at this point, we have just only defined the arrays. If you notice, there's nothing outputting because these arrays are not initialized. And what do I mean by initialized? They're basically not ready to hold anything. So how do we create an empty array? Well, what we do is we add parentheses. So I'm going to do another array, this time of floats. And how you initialize them is basically you equal it to float. So I'm actually giving the type float, and then I'm using parentheses. So now, if you noticed over here, we have an output that shows us that we actually have a bucket in which to insert floats. If you notice up here, we did not have that. And a good example of what I mean is, say if I did want to add something to the array of strings right now, as it is. So I'm going to do the short version of appending, and I'll cover that too. But I'm going to append a string, so I'm going to do hi, and let's see what happens. So we get this wonderful error down here. It says error variable array of strings passed by reference before initialized. So basically what it's saying is it wasn't initialized. There is no bucket in which to hold the string hi. Alright, now let's try the same thing, but this time with a float. So this float is initialized, and we see we have an empty bucket here in which to insert. So let's insert something. Oops. So let's insert something. So I'm going to do array of floats. I'm going to do plus equals my brackets. I'm going to enter a float. Let's see what happens. Okay, execution failed, use of unresolved identifier. Array of floats. Okay, I don't know, maybe I misspelled something. Oh, I did. I completely misspelled it. Okay, so you gotta make mistakes. Alright, I'm gonna delete that because honestly, I incorrectly spelled array. Okay, so as you see, I was able to insert or put the value of 2.3 into the bucket that of array of floats without any problems, other than the little misspelling error I had before. Okay, so that's why you need to actually have the parentheses. So initializes or makes the array available in order to do work on it. Okay, so I mean, I've shown how to initialize without any values, or sorry, create an array that's non-initialized without any values. It's just there. And then I showed you how to initialize. So I'm going to type in initialize, because I think that's really important to realize, is that you need to initialize it first before using it. Okay, so like before when I showed you how to use literals for regular variables, you can do exactly the same thing with arrays. So let's do that. So we're going to do var, and then we're going to create a shopping list. So that sounds like fun. Who doesn't need to go shopping? And with literals, again, we're going to use the brackets, and this is basically going to insert values plus initialize at the same time. So I'm going to do, what do we need from the store? Coconut milk, and let's see, almond flour, and that's it for right now. Okay, so here I have, if you noticed, I've kind of used the same shorthand where I use the brackets, but then I made this variable equal to an array, and with the shorthand, what Swift does is it infers what the type is based off of what's in the value here. So if I do option, hover over shopping list, click on it, it inferred that shopping list is of type string, or accepts values in its array that are of type string, which is actually quite awesome. Okay, and again, this could be an issue, like say if you wanted to use a float or a double, you need to specify what the array is going to be, in which it's good to actually type in, okay, this array is going to be of type double or float or whatever. But it's really nice to see that Swift actually infers what the type is. All right, so we have initialized an array. So I'm just going to say includes initialization, and also infers. Okay, so let's jump right in. So an array it can be very boring if you can't do anything with it. So let's have fun with it. Let's modify it and see what it actually contains. So one way of retrieving a value, because at this point, we have this array here that shows, okay, well, it contains almond flour and coconut milk. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. I'm like, why isn't it showing all the way through? Okay. But this isn't any use to us because it's in this array. Say if we wanted to take out coconut milk or access it, So what we can do is we can use subscript syntax. So arrays are zero index. So what that means is arrays start at 0, and then for the first item. So the first item, coconut milk, starts at 0, and then almond flour, which is the second, is 1, and then as we go on, 2, 3, 4, 5. So remember that with indexes, they always start at 0. Period. Okay. So it's index 0. So in order to access coconut milk, what I need to do is I need to type in the array and then use our brackets and type in 0. That's what I want, the first one. And sure enough, it pops out what its value is at index 0, which is coconut milk. All right. And so I can actually assign this value to a variable. So I'm going to do first item equals coconut milk. And sure enough, if we print out first item, it will be coconut milk. So this variable has been assigned the value at shopping list index 0, which is coconut milk. Okay. Another thing that we can do is count. So we can count how many items are in our list. And how we do that is basically with what it's called, dot notation. Like, I know what it is, just having a brain fart right now. Alright, so shopping list, and what we can do with count is I will show you what count is, so I'm going to do to count. So if we do option, hover over count, count the number of elements the array stores. So this is actually a function. You see int get. So basically it counts the number of elements in an array. So using dot notation, we can have this count how many items are in there. At this time, there's only 2, and that's absolutely correct. We have coconut milk and almond flour. Okay, so again, we're going to go and look at append. So what append does is it tacks on or adds an element to the array. So again, we do shopping list, dot notation, and append, and then it says, okay, so the new element has to be of type string, so we type in what the new element is. So let's say it's apples. Okay, so if you look at our array, it tacked on apples at the end. Okay. So the next one is insert. Insert is, if you notice, this is also a function. Basically, it takes in a value, and then you specify what index it needs to be inserted at. So remember, arrays are 0 index, so always when you think, okay, I want to be the third one, subtract 1 from 3, and then you say, okay, at index 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and insert something to our shopping list. Say it's the second thing we need. So again, it's asking for the string. So I'm going to say we're going to need, what are we going to need at the store? Let's say we're going to need carrots. And then I want that to be before apples, so it needs to be in the third position, so I subtract by 1, so it means it needs to be at index 2. And as you see, carrots has been inserted at the index that apples was at previously, which was at the third position or at index 2. So now apples is in index 3. Okay, So remove at index is, again, it's another function for arrays. So let's say I want to remove apples. Actually, no. Let's say I want to remove almond flour. So I'm going to do shopping list, remove at index. And again, we need to, think, okay, where is almond flour located in index? Well, it's the second one. So we need to subtract by 1, so it's at index 1. And sure enough, it pops out almond flour. And then if we look at
21 hours.
If we look at our array now, we will see that almond flour has been absolutely removed from the list. Okay. But to be honest, I kind of want apples or almond flour to be there. So let's comment that out. Okay. Actually, let's not do that. Because it's nice to see what's removed and what's not removed. Alright, so remove last is exactly what it means. It removes the last element in the array. So again, we do shopping list, dot notation, remove last. As you see, there's actually a lot of other functions that apply to arrays. So, definitely go in and into documentation and look at it, because there's a lot to play around with. I'm just showing you some basic stuff that's gonna, you'll use probably more often than not. All right, so again, just tab, and what it'll do, it'll take out apples, which is absolutely true because apples was the last one, right? So if we print a shopping list this time, you'll see apples is absolutely gone from the list. So we only have coconut milk and carrots. Yum, yum. Okay. So I'm going to comment these out because I need to show you iterating over an array in which we use for n. Okay. So if you want to just, go through the array and have it output each and every element, we use for n. Okay, so I've covered for loops in another video, so if you want more details about for loops and for n loops, definitely check out that video because I definitely go into more detail about it. I'm not going to go into much detail right now because I do it justice in the other video. Okay. I'm just showing you that you can iterate over an array. And I believe in that video I do iterate over an array as well as I believe a dictionary. Again, I'll cover dictionaries in another video, but just letting you know that it's out there. Okay, so we go ahead and do a for. And then because the array, we only want the value, we do item. We can do whatever we want. We can say food item, whatever. But I'm just going to do item. And we do in shopping list. And then we will print out the item. Okay. And sure enough, it actually, let me do a print up here so we can see a little more detail. So here's your list of items. Okay, so you can see what's in the list. Okay, so it outputs coconut milk, almond flour, carrots, and apples. So it went through the loop each time until it got to the end and actually, iterated or went through the actual array. All right, another method I want to show you that also iterates over an array is enumerate. So it's E-N-U-M-E-R-T, and then we do the little parentheses. So what enumerate does is it's a method that iterates over the array and returns a tuple. which is composed of the index and the value. So here, if we look at it, pop it in here. Actually, here's a better example. So it iterates, the tuple is composed of the index, which is the, the place or the number. So it's, again, the index, so at 0, at 1, and also the value. If you noticed in for n, it only output the value, but in some cases you want the index as well. So basically you can decompose the tuple into temporary constants or variables as part of the iteration. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'll just show you. So for example, I'm going to do for, so it's basically like for n, so I'm using for n, but I'm actually doing a tuple instead of just one variable like I did in the above example. So for example, I'm going to do index and then character. I'm going to do the character since Swift is not liking me using reserved keywords, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so what this is going to do is I'm going to take a character, or say I'm going to just do my name, and I want it to iterate over each character in this string. So I'm going to do dot notation. I'm going to say, well, this string contains characters, and I want you to enumerate, so go through each one, and then I want you to do something. So in this case, I want it to print out the index. So I'm going to do dot notate, string interpolation, and then I'm going to say, and I want you to show me the character. Okay. So what it's going to do is, as you see, it actually iterates. Oops, I didn't mean to highlight that. It iterates each character in this string, or in this case, it is kind of like an array, so to an extent. And let me show you in an array. So with the shopping list example that we had before, again, we can do the same thing. We do index and then item. In shopping list, enumerate. And again, I'm just going to copy this so we can just see it and change the character to item. Okay, and so again, it says, okay, at first index, it's coconut milk, second, almond flour, etc. Okay, and again, if you want to have it print out a little bit more prettier than this, because, with arrays, it's 0 indexed, you can actually add 1 to the index because it is an integer, and it will actually add 1 to actual index. Okay, so we've gone through how to create an array, longhand and shorthand. We created an array with literals. We've touched on accessing and modifying arrays, as well as iterating over them with enumerate and for n. Alright, so the next video is going to be about dictionaries. See you then.